Namaste, friends, and welcome to our Sunday edition of Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga on our Virat Hindustan Sangam social media channels. Today is the 199th, that is 199 episode of Gyan Ganga, which we started with Dr. Subramaniam Swamy during the COVID lockdown. We started exactly on the 2nd of April 2000, and today we have the 199th episode. Today we have a very interesting topic: government's complicity in demographic invasion of Jammu province. And our guest with Dr. Subramaniam Swamy today is Professor Madhu Kishwar. I will give you a brief introduction of Madhu Kishwar ji. She is currently Senior Fellow, Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, Center for Contemporary Studies. Till 2016, she was professor at the Center for Study of Developing Societies and Director, Indic Studies Project as CSDS till 2016. In 2016, she was awarded National Fellowship of the Indian Council for Social Research and Social Science Research. Her life work represents a rare combination of academic scholarship, research-based social and legal activism, including public interest litigation and investigative journalism on issues concerning the most neglected strata of society, as well as the blasting negative stereotyping of Indian society. Kishwar's area of work includes, but not confined to, people-centric studies of diverse culture and faith tradition in the Indic universe, law, liberty, and livelihood, aimed at evolving a pro-poor agenda of economic reforms in India, strengthening the culture of gender justice, legal aid, and PIL on behalf of vulnerable groups. She was the founder editor of Manushi, a journal about women and society, and Manushi Sangatan, an organization working for democratic reforms that promote greater social justice. She has written numerous books and contributed to many articles in numerous newspapers. She has been on Doordarshan. Her latest book, The Girl from Kathua, is recently published in February. We will be discussing about this. So with these words, this is welcoming you all to our program, Words of Wisdom Gyan Ganga. Over to Dr. Subramaniam Swamy.
Oh, thank you, Jagdish. We are grateful to Madhu Kishwar for finding time to come on our program on what I consider is a very important dimension of what's wrong in Kashmir. We during the heydays of the Soviet Union, we had known about how information can be used and how false information can be cause havoc and so on. But they were developed by scholars in the West, and particularly in America, was disinformation. So they had information, misinformation, disinformation. So misinformation is getting the wrong facts and then making a big hoo-ha about it, but there's no motive there. And disinformation is how you restructure the whole situation in a way in which it goes for a mischievous purpose. So here we are dealing with this big book. It's almost 1,000 pages, and it's already become quite well known. And this book, Madhu Kishwar has done with great detail, of which she will explain herself, because this is her program, or she's our invitee for this program. And there was a case of a young girl, and she was found dead, and it was found that she was raped and so on. And it became a case of a Hindu-Muslim thing, beautifully structured, in which even the chief minister of the BJP-supported majority Mehbooba. She went to town on it and created an enormous amount of poison in the society. So what I am going to do is first ask Madhuji to explain what the whole matter is, the book, what the book is all about, and then we can discuss in this program what we need to do now to correct all that has happened in the courts and so on, and to see that the actual truth comes out, and those innocent who were framed in this are properly brought back with glory of the society. So over to Madhu, and Madhu, this is all now your floor. Please take your time and explain as you see best fit. After that, we will subject you to some questions.
Namaste, Swamiji. It is really an honor to be on your program. And I must congratulate you also on your team's presentation of the issue even before we started. Extremely professional, and it gave the background very in just about a couple of slides so that people understand what we're talking about. But however, I have prepared this presentation, and your legal inputs certainly will be welcome. By the way, the book is not 1,000 pages. Please don't intimidate people from reading it. It's only 640 pages. Uh, so, but it's, I'm sure you will agree, Swami, that it's eminently readable. I put a lot of hard work into making it readable for a layperson who may not ever have read a legal document. So, a lot of effort went into revising my draft so that it's easily comprehensible, easily graspable, and the issues are laid out in a sequence that people can make sense of. For me, it was a nightmare writing this book, but I'm sure it will not be a nightmare for people to read it because I've tried to make it an easy read. Now we'll start with my PPT. I prepared a brief PPT because there are visuals that need to be also shared apart from the text. Now we're discussing government's complicity in demographic invasion of Jammu province using this case, the girl from Katwa, her murder and the alleged rape, as in a way a case study of how the government of India, the state machinery, has been complicit in demographic invasion. And the facts will speak for themselves how grossly mismanaged this case has been, what lies have been told, implicating innocents in order to serve what I would call the Ghazwa Hind agenda of the Islamists of Kashmir Valley. Now, the brief facts of the case you've already narrated, but I'll just repeat for your viewers who may have joined late. On January 10, 2018, this little girl living near Rasana hamlet in Katwa district vanished without a trace. That was the story let out. On January 17, her dead body was found behind Rasana village. And mind you, this is a small hamlet. It's not even a full fledged village, just 15 to 16 households. Using the dead body of this innocent girl, Mehbooba Mufti led PDP BJP government. I think it's important to emphasize that the BJP had propped up the PDP. So it had the power to call halt, to put a roadblock in Mehbooba Mufti's way, but they didn't. She unleashed a reign of terror and arrested hundreds of young men from Katwa district while implicating 8 innocent men on charges of abducting, gang raping, and murdering the girl. And I say it with full confidence that all the 8 who are accused of having abducted or murdered or allegedly gang raped her or assisted in gang raping her had nothing whatsoever to do with her. They didn't even know she existed. They are totally innocent. And if you want to get at the real murderers of the girl, real culprits, you have to start investigating Mehbooba Mufti and her comrades in arms. And sadly enough, instead of um, doing the right thing at the time, BJP High Command fully backed Mehbooba Mufti in this sinister plot. And that to me is unforgivable. I can't even get over it. I think the shock I got from following up on this case and looking at examining BJP's role in it has left me traumatized for life. I just couldn't have believed this was possible, but it has happened, and I think it's not the first time. They've done it in many other cases also. But let's get on with this particular case. Slide 2, please. Now, it's very important for people to understand the geopolitical importance of Rasana village. It's a small hamlet, as you can see, a narrow strip of about 16 houses, and it's close to the Indo-Pak border in Kathua district, which is about 10-12 kilometers from there, but also connected to the Indo-Pak border through these various nalas, seasonal rivulets, through which from the border um, armed smugglers, terrorists, and drug smuggling takes place on a very, very large and sinister scale. You can also see from this map, Swami, that behind the houses, the Rasana hamlet, it's all forest land. So it's surrounded by forest land on all sides. But behind this forest land takes you right up to Kashmir Valley. If somebody wants to walk down this route through the forest, they can safely reach the northern districts of Jammu province, as well as, which are already Muslim majority, as well as Kashmir Valley. And so this is a very favorite route. And it became very important geopolitically for Pakistan to get Kathua district become Hindu, um, minority in the way that Rajouri, Punj, Doda, Kishtwar have already become. They were also at one time Hindu majority, but now they're all Muslim majority in the way that Kashmir was turned into not only Muslim majority, but also completely erased the existence of Hindu community from the valley. This is exactly what they are doing, spreading their footprint. And Kathua, as one of the few remaining Hindu majority districts neighboring Pakistan border, has been very critical. And as you well know, it is from this area that a lot of attacks on Air Force Army bases have taken place. Swami, I know you know it better than me, how not only Bangladeshi migrants in very large number, but also Rohingya Muslims have been taken to Jammu province. Not one of them is allowed to enter Kashmir. They're only taken to Jammu province and have been settled in ways as not only to encircle Jammu city, which is used to be a Hindu city of temples, but also army bases, air force bases, and very critically along the highway, you see these settlements, even on river beds, so that they can actually play a very subversive role when time comes. And large tracts of forest land have already been taken over by Bangladeshi, Rohingya Muslims, and Muslims coming from UP and Bihar. They've been enabled to settle through that Roshni Act, you remember? And there's a big battle going on with Roshni Act also, even though the High Court had actually declared it illegal, unconstitutional. The BJP government has said, no, no, not really. And we should not be alienating these people by removing these encroachments. They are actually not willing to go by the High Court verdict on Roshni Act, which was a very major instrument of land jihad. So this murder is also part of land jihad, targeting Kathua district in particular at this point, but they've been doing it in other districts also, as you know, with targeted killing of Hindus, killings of Hindus, and Hindus have had to leave and abandon their villages, even in Jammu province, while the BJP pretends that things are actually normal. So, this geopolitical um situation is important. And since it's a small hamlet, if all the Hindus vacated this area and neighboring villages, this would be a very good hiding point for terrorists who come across from the border through these nalas. Next, please. Yeah. Now, as a lawyer, as somebody who's a super lawyer, you're not just a lawyer, you know very well that as per law in India, but also in most other countries of the world, naming and identifying rape victims is a crime. And in India also, at least 2 years jail and a fine. And especially when it affects a child, and she's supposed to have been 8-year-old. Actually, she's possibly at least 12-year-old. They've lied even about her age, just as they've lied about many other things. But they've named her so brazenly. In fact, I got suspicious about the authenticity of the case because I witnessed how, on a mass scale, they not only made her name, but even her iconic photograph globally famous. Now, in my book, as you can see, I called her the girl from Katwa, the sacrificial victim of Ghazwa Hind. And I really mean it. She is a sacrificial victim and murdered in all likelihood by our own community people with full knowledge of Mehbooba Mufti. So the government should actually be investigating Mehbooba Mufti. Instead, they've gone along slavishly with her fake narrative. Next, please. Now, the scale of this. On April 22nd, 23, just as recently as 22nd April, I Googled justice for this girl. I won't name her. And in 42 seconds, it fetched 4 crore 35 lakh results in English language alone. And this case has been covered in every language of the world. So you can well imagine how globally famous this face and this name became. It's not a small number. There is no other case in the entire world where people know the name and face of the victim. And I became suspicious, wondering how is this happening? Despite this strict law, where a lot of people have been punished for identifying the rape victim, especially if it's a child rape victim. Um, let's go next, please. This is what got me started. And I could see that it was a well planned conspiracy because in all articles, her face and her name are both mentioned prominently. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. Now you see all these celebrities. इससे पहला भी दिखाइए. From Javed Akhtar to Akshay Kumar to Anupam Kher and all these big demonstrations. I have covered her eyes and I've covered her. But in all demonstrations and in all posts and in all videos and in news items on the social media and in many mainstream papers also and news channels, her name and face were made very prominent. Next. Now, who was orchestrating it? So, obviously, when I did my research, I found out it all started with Mehbooba Mufti. She named and she also published her photograph. Next, please. Many others, but she was the prime culprit. She started it all. And her key megaphones who acted in violation of law, the same old people, this gang, Lutyens gang, which leads all such fake narratives, whether it's Hindu terror bogie or fake narrative with regard to Colonel Purohit, Sadhvi Pragya, or even Gujarat riots. I mean, they've done a con job on the Indian public. Next, please. Next. Now, BBC, think of it. Can you ever imagine BBC doing it in England? Please go to the earlier slide. BBC would never do it in England. New York Times would never do it in England. They did it too, with her face and naming her brazenly. So it led me to believe that there had to be big masterminds, not just Mehbooba Mufti, but behind her also, there have to be other people. Please continue. Wikipedia, you will never find, in the next slide, you will see even Wikipedia names her and also publishes a photograph. Have you seen it in any other case? No. Next. Now, all this is happening, and the government of India is sitting quiet. The High Court took some mild notice of it, but they never sent anybody to jail, only fined some newspapers a little bit. But then uh, everybody else continued, and even those media houses which paid the fine didn't really bother to erase the photographs and the names. And what led me to ask this question, why such extraordinary interest in the Katwa case? As you well know, Swami, Rasana village is really, in the backwaters for most Lutyens journalists. I don't think they even knew the spelling of Kathua. None of them have ever seen that district. And right under their nose in Delhi, 6,000 children disappear every year, which is the figure provided by Child Rights Commission. They've never bothered about those children. And I asked myself, how come they've gone berserk? If my book has two chapters where I have reproduced the tweets and the articles and all the rest that Barkha Dutt, Rajdeep Sardesai, Nidhi Rajdan, Aarti Tikku, the works. They've never bothered about any disappeared child in Delhi, right under their nose. What is it about this remote district, Kathua, and a small village whose name was unknown to most of us? I'm sure even you had not heard it. I hadn't, though I've been to J&K so many times. What made them so eager about this child? And that's what really led me to start investigating the case, because I know they are serial offenders. Next, please. Now, what is interesting, Swami, it's not as if when this case happened and Jammu Hindus kept quiet. No, something very unprecedented happened, which is there were mass protests. And that too actually upped my antenna, because these are the Rasana hamlet that was targeted. The residents are mostly working class or low middle class residents. Some are working in a mill in Bombay, the others are auto rickshaw drivers, somebody is working as a job assistant in some shop in Kathua district. They're very poor people. The best status was that of Patwari Sanjiram. But even he, very honest, not a rich man, didn't even own a four-wheeler, had only a two-wheeler scooter of vintage, maybe 20-year-old scooter or 30-year-old scooter. So he was also of very modest means, and his sister, whose son was also implicated, is married to a peon in a private school. So that is the economic profile of these people. So they were not influential people, and yet all of Jammu province rose in protest. There were massive protest demonstrations, including total Bandh in Jammu province the day on April 10, for example, when the second charge sheet was sought to be filed. There were two charge sheets. The first one implicated only one teenager, and then by April, they decided it's not just him. There were 8 people with Sanjiram Patwari as the mastermind. So, against 8 people, the day they went to register the case, the police went to Kathua court. The lawyers actually tried to prevent them, saying it's all wrong. And they had been convinced of the wrongness of the case not only because the charge sheet reads like the product of a demented brain or somebody, who's on drugs or mad, lunatic, but also because between January and April, um, Mehbooba Mufti government with BJP in full alliance at that time had let loose a reign of terror. Next, please. Let loose a reign of terror in that entire district, arresting hundreds of innocent young men. And the terror was such that from many villages, people, including from Rasana, people fled their homes and they came and took shelter on the National Highway 44 under this large banyan tree next to a mandir and a school. And they would sleep in the school at night. And yet, BJP didn't take note that all of Hindus of this province were up in arms saying, please don't do this. Did you want to say something? Or may I
No,
continue?
continue.
Okay.
Continue.
Now, the Jammu Bandh call was interestingly given by President Bar Association of Jammu High Court, Shri B.S. Lathia. You may have known him. He was a lifelong Congress worker, very sincere, much respected person. He gave a call and he pleaded not just with the BJP High Command, but also with his own party to say, please don't allow this injustice to take place. This is totally fake case and innocents are being targeted with very sinister intent, and people could see the intent was to drive out Hindus from the Kathua district, which was what was happening. People were fleeing their villages. Okay, but neither the Congress listened to him, nor the Supreme Court, nor BJP High Command. In fact, the saddest part is these two ministers, these are BJP ministers, Chaudhry Lal Singh and Chandra Prakash Ganga. They were forced to resign by the PMO because they joined the Hindu Ekta Manch, which was a multi party platform. It was not just BJP, every single party that had any Hindus in it joined this Hindu Ekta Manch to demand nothing more than a CBI probe. Slathia ji also only demanded a CBI probe. The Bar Association went on strike. They stopped working for days on end till the Supreme Court and the BJP High Command threatened them. Can you imagine the chamber, what do you call it? The Bar Association, not Bar, the Bar Council of India was sent by the Supreme Court to go threaten these lawyers, not to listen to them as to why they were protesting. They were told that their licenses would be cancelled if they didn't stop protesting. Now, BJP is party to all this repression. Hundreds arrested, hundreds being tortured into making fake admissions and fake confessions on the basis of which this whole case was being cooked up. And nobody paid any heed, not even the Supreme Court. Appeals were sent to the Supreme Court. Please have it probed by an independent agency. Nobody paid heed. And the PMO actually came down so heavily that the BJP leaders of Jammu who were protesting were threatened. As I mentioned just now, two ministers were made to resign because they were leading massive protest demonstrations. And all those who say, Hindus take everything lying low, Hindus don't rise, they don't, should have witnessed those protest demonstrations. Now, the manner in which this entire protest was crushed, and that too at the behest of whom? On the one hand, you're snubbing Hindu leaders, including president of the Bar Association, who actually died a very heartbroken man because he was dubbed a pro-rapist, Hindutva fascist. He couldn't believe it that for demanding a mere CBI probe, he would be called a fascist and a rape defender. Now, at the behest of this man, Talib Hussain, history sheeter, a notorious criminal who was projected all over the country and globally as this knight in shining armor, who was leading this campaign for justice to this murdered girl. Now, firstly, he has multiple rapes to his credit, including rape of his sister-in-law. She had registered a case against this man much before. Also, domestic violence of very serious kind, life threatening kind, abandoning his wife because she produced two daughters, not sons, extortion of money from in laws, threatening to leave the wife, to do this to them, harm them, etc. And he's actually abandoned his wife, took away all her jewelry, and whatnot. There are so many crimes to his credit. Attempted murder cases against him, violence on the campus. He pretended to be a lawyer. He never completed his law degree because he kept failing and never completed that. And yet, he was presented as this knight in shining armor. Now, if I could find out all these facts, are you saying that the intelligence agencies or the government of India didn't know that he's a criminal? That PMO would not know, with CBI and IB, Intelligence Bureau, and all the rest under their charge, they wouldn't know. But no, he was allowed to become a global celebrity. And then finally, it's his in laws who got him into jail for the crimes he was committing against their daughter, against other members of the family, and whatever. And mind you, he also raped girls in JNU who came to him as admirers. There is a moving letter by a JNU student who was his great admirer. As you well know, JNU had joined hands with this movement, Justice for this Girl movement, which Talib Hussain and Shaila Rashid were leading. And there, what was he doing on the side? Raping girls, and brutally raping girls. I published the letter of one of these girls, and it's so sad. She says, but I wanted to complain to the police, but I didn't, thinking, well, at least he didn't murder me like that 8-year-old or 12-year-old girl was murdered. Can you imagine how they cover up the crimes of their own community or their own human rights? This is their idea of human rights. Next, please. Now, as I mentioned, that the narrative that was peddled, whether by BBC, New York Times, Washington Post, Times of India, or our multiple media houses, none of them, I say with conviction and confidence, ever read the charge sheet. Now, let me briefly tell you what's the first version of the crime that the police gave out when they arrested Shubham Sangra, the first accused, who was a 17-year-old schoolboy. They said that now we have solved the case. On January 18, they take him under custody, they torture him, they get some kind of a confession. And as per this confession, what is the story they let out? They say that this girl had gone to graze her horses in the forest behind Rasana village, and then she lost the horses. So she came to Rasana and she yelled and to the houses, "Has anybody seen my horses? Has anybody seen my horses?" And this young man who was on the terrace of his uncle's house came down and said, "I'll help you find the horses." That's the charge sheet number one. So he comes down, then he goes around the village he goes around the forest. They can't find the horses because the horses were perhaps never lost in the first place. That's also possibly a cock and bull story, because an 8-year-old girl being sent to graze horses all alone is in itself a little odd. But let's say we believe that part. They couldn't find. Now listen to the rest. The rest says at 6:30, he says, "Oh, we can't find the horses. Let's go to my village." So she quietly follows him. And when she quietly follows him, he comes and locks her up. Where? Just see the next slide. This is in the middle of the village. This is a cattle shed where Sanji Ram's family ties their animals. It's right in the middle of the village. Huh? And you see the picture at the bottom? That's the little shed with a broken door. It's not as if it could be secured with a heavy lock, that he's supposed to have put her down. And she happily lay down. And how did he captivate her? I mean, how did he bound her down? With the nara of her salwar and a little rope lying in the shed. And he put a little hanky in her mouth to shut her up. But she didn't try to shout, because had she done so, in no time families would have come running, because it's right next to houses of villages who are very alert. When I went there in the middle of an afternoon, we didn't even call anybody, and suddenly four women had come to say, why have you come? Or what do you want to see in this cowshed? So it's not as if she tried to run, she could have been stopped, or if she had yelled, nobody would have heard her. Now, this is the story they peddle. And they say that for 6 days, he kept her. No, please keep to that previous slide. For 6 days, he kept her in that shed. Every day he would bring food for her, stolen from his house, and feed her lovingly. He would also come with toffees, milk-weight toffees, and give those toffees. And at night, Swami, of all the things, I mean, look at the bizarre imagination of the demented officers who wrote this charge sheet. Um, at night, he would take her for a rendezvous so that she can relieve herself. And after she relieved herself, susu, potty, whatever, very lovingly, he would wash her private parts from water from a hand pump. Now, and she doesn't try to run away. This is January, very cold, doesn't have blankets, doesn't have anything to even cover her. Anybody would have caught pneumonia in 6 days, right? But no, she lay there very happily so that she can be given Milky Way toffees and stolen food from his house. And last day, on the sixth day evening, he says, I'm going to go drop you to your house. The story is that as he is going through the village, and mind you, her own house is no more than 6-7 minutes walk from Rasana village. Okay? So it's not as if it was so far. If she had screamed loud enough, possibly even her own fake family would have heard it. In the middle of the forest, he says he decides to rape her. So when he tries to rape her, she says, I will tell to my parents. So he says, oh, you will tell to your parents. And he throttles her with her own chunni, dupatta, and then takes a big stone, heavy stone, and hits her twice on her head and leaves her there. Now, even an idiot would not leave the dead body of a girl that he has allegedly tried to rape or murdered right behind his own house, right? But he does that. That's the charge sheet version 1. Then comes charge sheet version 2,
Uh,
because
uh,
Shubham,
just
this
one,
teenager, yeah,
just one interruption.
yeah,
Um, we will have to close at exactly at 9 o'clock. So there'll be
okay.
questions and so on. So this is how is it connected
No, but I'll
with?
just I'll in
All
five
right.
minutes finish the other story, because that's more important. The
Uh,
temple story, very
yeah.
quickly. Version 2 is that he took her to the Devasthan, Kalivir Devasthan, and 8 people were involved in that whole conspiracy with Sanjiram and as the mastermind. Let's move, please, very quickly. Now, so these 8 are. This is the humble shrine. One room, unprotected structure, open windows, no shisha even, open to view. Anybody passing by can see everything inside. Next slide, please. And this is 3 minutes walk from Rasana village. You can see just one room, and anybody can see 3 doors managed by 3 different villages. Um, so it's a shrine common to 3 villages. And they said that in this shrine, these people Now it's not just one person, that teenager, but teenager plus. And he even invites one of his cousins to come from Meerut, who was giving exams there, a total cock and bull story, to come and satisfy his lust. That child managed to escape because CCTV footage of his appearing in withdrawing money from ATMs in Muzaffarnagar were found. Anyway, next, please. Next, quickly. Yeah, so these are pictures of, yeah. They say they kept her on this. After raping her, they would put her on this table. There's just this one piece of furniture, 2 feet by 3 feet, and on top or underneath it they would cover with garis and give us some epitril of non-existent strength to make her unconscious. So for many days she lay unconscious while they gang raped her. She never woke up. And interestingly, now can you hide somebody in the kind of room I just showed you, with daily devotees coming into this mandir? Not only that, on 13th of January, there was Lodi, and Makar Sankranti was January 14, where three villages together did come together to celebrate these festivals. And these both festivals are important in rural India, especially North India. And there was kirtan, there was langar, there was everything, and nobody noticed that this girl was lying first alive, and then they said her dead body was also dumped there because they couldn't find a place to dump her dead body. Next, very quickly, I'll finish. In next, please. Yeah. This photo I won't tell. There's lot, how they didn't even publicize it at the right time that the girl had vanished. They only woke up when her dead body was found, and big demonstrations broke out. National highway was blocked, but they didn't bother while she remained disappeared for one whole week. I've described all that, the entire game plan that came out in detail in my book. Next, please. You see this? They take the dead body out after the postmortem, block the highway. Scheinbach syndrome, huh? National highway. And the police lets them do it. Mind you, BJP in power. National highway going all the way to the border, Kashmir border, allowed to be blocked with this dead body for endless amount of time. And they run amok, but BJP remains totally indifferent. Next, not order CBI probe. Most important, post-mortem report does not support rape, leave alone gang rape. No sperm detected. Very boldly written in the forensic lab report. PMRs also make no mention of injuries to her private parts or her internal organs. A girl can't be gang raped and have no internal injuries. Next. Um, there are a lot of contradictions in the postmortem report. Firstly, they said she had been electrocuted and human bites all over her body. PMR does not say that. They allege she was strangulated and her head hit twice with heavy stone, even second time. But PMR does not mention even a crack on her forehead or her skull or a drop of blood there. And all the allegations they made actually are not supported by postmortem reports. I have analyzed the PMRs in detail. Most importantly, one of the key accused, Vishal Jangotra, who apparently came all the way from Muzaffarnagar to satisfy his lust with this girl at the invitation of his cousin, was actually giving exams in Muzaffarnagar. There was CCTV footage of all that.
My
Testimony of
God.
his landlady, testimony of his principal, and much else. And they told such gross lies about his having come, taken part in gang rape, and the rest. Now, Judge Tejwinder Singh gave life imprisonment till the last breath to three persons, supposedly key accused. He had to very reluctantly acquit that Muzaffarnagar son, Muzaffarnagar based son of Sanjiram. But he himself was put under investigation for illegal gratification and misdemeanors unbecoming of a judge. He has a very dirty track record. There's much against him that I don't have time to talk about. So, anyway, where are we now? After the 2019 legally unsustainable judgment by Sessions Judge Tejwinder Singh, all the convicted persons appealed to the High Court of Punjab and Haryana. Even after the fall of PDP-BJP alliance in J&K, Government of India continued to support PDP peddled fake narrative. Government has even supported Kathua girl's father's malicious plea that all age should be given death sentence. I am appalled. Death sentence they are demanding for these innocents. Kathua Hindus continue to live under terror, and many young men have been sent away from their villages because they find it unsafe to keep their young men in that district. So Hindu ka palayan already shuru ho hi gaya hai wahan se bhi. And most Rasana villagers, I have video recording of it, have abandoned their farms since they feel insecure going into the forest. But demographic invasion continues unabated, with BJP merrily ignoring all this right under their nose. This is where we are, Swamy.
Well, thank you very much. I must compliment you. The amount of research is done. As not as an official of the government who has all the paraphernalia to help, but on your own, it's tremendous. And we have to take this forward and bring it to a conclusion, so that after this program is over and when you are a little free, I'll get some lawyers also, and we can sit down and see what documents can be put together, and we'll take it from there. At the moment, my colleagues want to ask questions, so
Yes.
let me hand it over to Jagdish and the others to proceed with any clarification, questions, suggestions that our colleagues want to ask of her.
Madhuji, my question to you is, why is the BJP and BJP leaders and then the government and even now wanting to do such a thing to the Hindus of Jammu? Why you think they are doing such thing? We are hearing from all over the country, and the unbugged gunbugs are very unhappy that we are raising these type of issues. But why you think they are doing this, especially in Jammu and Kashmir?
I think they've made a secret pact with the devil, at least the top leaders have, which is why, for example, they will not declare Ram Setu as a national heritage site. How can you explain it? Nobody in their right mind. Or why will they not utter a word when Palghar sadhus are lynched with cameras rolling in the presence of the police? Absolutely innocent and unarmed sadhus who don't even know what's hit them. So many cases of Sartan se juda, not a word from BJP High Command. There's so many acts of omission and commission to their credit that I think we are all in a state of shock. I certainly am. I've been traumatized ever since witnessing the odd, bizarre shenanigans of Modi government, which claims to be the chief defenders of Hindu interests, but actually their Tripti Karan has reached lunatic heights.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next.
Arvind ji, go ahead. Arvind ji, आपने कुछ पूछना चाहते हैं?
Yeah, Madhu ji, you have mentioned about this particular case, which is actually historic, and in terms of the kind of details which have been hidden from public, and you have brought it out to the surface. This is, of course, congratulations to you for doing this work. But I'm just saying, Jagdish had asked this question about BJP. Any sexual crime against women is somehow defended by BJP people. And it has been happening in Jantar Mantar for a few months now. The wrestlers have been accusing the BJP leader, and the government is not doing anything. They have taken almost 6 months now, and though they say the charge sheet has been now filed, but it's still the case. So, do you think there is some inherent thing in BJP that that they defend these kind of characters?
No, I think what actually worries me more, Jantar Mantar, they have massive support. How that case will pan out is yet to be seen. And there's not comparable. But I think what is of concern, what ought to be of concern to us Hindus, is that there is not a single party in the entire country which listens to Hindu grievances, their pain, their anguish, or their cry for justice. Tell me one party which said, look, if Hindus of Jammu province as one man and one woman are rising and over long period of months, please at least listen to them. Why can't you agree to a CBI probe? It's a very modest demand. No, not one party. And there is Dr. Swamy, there are stray voices, there are individuals who are doing it, but tell me one party which is stood up for Hindus. So we really feel today totally unprotected. And BJP in particular appears to be betraying. The others don't even pretend. BJP pretends to be the ठेकेदार of Hindu interests. Modi ji in particular gave us this illusion that we will be safe. And I actually thought, I'm going to spend my old years in peace. All my life I have struggled for this issue, that issue. Now, all good things will happen and we'll be healthier and a more secure society. I don't think Hindus have ever been as insecure as now. It's nearing the stage that was 1940s or near the partition, with the open threats of Bharat Tere Tukde Honge, Inshallah, Inshallah, and their plan of total Islamization openly declared. They have nothing to say about it except more Triptikaran. And also, Swami, please note, have you ever heard the Prime Minister ever meet Jammu Hindus? Have you seen a photograph of him doing that? Have you heard him talk about Jammu Hindus? Has he ever bothered to visit Jammu? Has he ever bothered to talk to anybody who has an issue to bring to his attention from Jammu? No. So,
But there is a minister
it,
from Jammu in his cabinet. I mean, his
oh,
prime minister
he's the
did.
most hated. I have named him as the biggest culprit, which is Dr. Jitendra Singh, whose
Dr.
brother was the
Jitendra Singh.
right
Yeah.
hand man all his life of the Abdullahs and their strong man. Both these together, it's not possible that they don't know. And Swami, I went to meet Dr. Jitendra Singh before I understood his vested interest in crushing Hindus of Jammu. I pleaded with him, saying, please look at how they are pleading. Look at the modest demand. CBI is under your control. He talked to me very roughly. And I came out of his house really crying. I couldn't believe it. Because after coming from Jammu, I was very disturbed seeing all this, my first trip to investigate. And the main reason is that some of his political rivals, like Lal Singh, who's also from Kandwa district, were leading the protests. So he thought he's not very popular. And he thought, oh, these people will gain more credentials. Or Pavan Gupta, a very credible person from Sangh Parivar, who won on his own steam at a time, they didn't give him the ticket. But in 2014, he won without BJP support, though he's from third generation Sangh family. So Dr. Jitendra Singh's role has been very, very, very sad. And I've named him in my book as being the main reason why the Prime Minister did not listen. And to have such a person in the PMO is in itself tragic. You must surround yourself with the best people of integrity. Please go check in Jammu whether even two people will vouch for the integrity of the man who represents that region in the PMO.
Yeah.
Dr. Swamy, I just have one question before we conclude. We're just, and you go ahead, Dr. Swamy, then I will have the last
One
question.
short question. What
Sure, go
is
ahead,
the
Doctor.
exact legal status today about this case?
The exact legal status is that one, there were two minors who were teenagers, and the courts refused to accept them as teenagers, and they subjected them to needless humiliation and tests. They had school certificate, birth certificates, everything going for them, but the court said no, no, they're not. And bone ossification test, as which you well know, is not very accurate. All their birth certificates, school certificates were rad karod, and one such teenager has even been given life imprisonment. That's one. The second so-called juvenile now is going to again be tried as an adult. Three persons have been given life imprisonment till the day they breathe their last. The rest for conspiring, including two police officers and two special police officers. And their only crime that they were SPOs, very active in uh, combating cow smuggling, and also advising Hindus not to sell their land. That was the biggest crime that Patwari Sanjiram is supposed to have committed. He would tell people, don't sell your ancestral, hamari Janmabhoomi hai, don't sell it, and stick to it, because there have been attempts to eject them from that area. So this is the revenge that was taken. Otherwise, it's not as if they've ever done anything wrong or they harmed Mehbooba Mufti or anybody else in any way. So now the High Court of Punjab and Haryana is listening to this case. Gone for appeal, and I told you they want death sentence. The government of India is supporting, or J&K government. The law officer of the J&K government is supporting death penalty, though, even for the guy the young man who's been acquitted because there's evidence that he was in Muzaffarnagar. They're saying usko bhi death penalty, though. Even his acquittal is wrong. So, I mean, it leaves you stunned. Um, the two, three of them got bail, but they've already spent 5 years in jail. So 5 saal ka uska punishment. Their careers are gone. Their jobs are gone. Their families are facing penury, and they haven't even gotten good legal aid, Swami. I think that's the big tragedy, and I'm trying to now organize better defense for them in the High Court of Punjab and Haryana, and recently visited Kathua for this purpose. And we're trying to put things together. I'm going to come and meet you, and thank you very much for your offer of help.
Last question, and then Arvindji, you can close.
Ramesh
Huh.
ji, before you go ahead, I have a quick question for her. Madam, how is this case shifted from Jammu and Kashmir province to Pathankot? And how is that the Chandigarh High Court has jurisdiction on this matter?
That's the amazing thing. Never before in the history of India has any chief minister manipulated to shift a case from our own state to a neighboring state. And why did it
Right.
happen? Because this somewhat upright High Court judge was to go to Jammu. But Swami, would you remember her name? I know her well, but it's just the name is escaping. The moment they got to know that she was going
The
to Geeta,
Delhi High Court,
I think
was it?
Geeta Mittal ji, shayad.
Yeah, that's right. It's from Delhi High Court. She went to
Yeah.
become chief
She to
justice.
Jammu.
Yeah.
The moment Mehbooba realized that she's going to come to Jammu High Court, she got the entire Lutyens gang mobilized, Indira Jaising in the lead, yelling and screaming that these people will never get justice. The girl's family won't get justice in Kathua, so it better be shifted. Not only did they shift it to neighboring Punjab, but they found the most compromised, heavily indicted judge by the High Court of his own state to take care of this case. And second, section 3 of my book deals with the atrocious judgment, the sheer arrogance, the stupidity, callousness of this judge in handling this important case. So they found the most compromised man who is now under investigation. So at least he can't become a high court judge, thank God. So that's how it went. They created such shindig in Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court merrily agreed, saying, "What's the danger? Mehbooba Mufti is the chief minister. She's running the administration. What danger is there to this case in her own state?" But she engineered it through these NGO, foreign-funded NGO activists.
Okay. Good.
Last
Yeah,
question, Ramesh.
Yeah, I'm just coming back to. I'm just amazed by the amount of uh, uh, hubris the media and the people that you exposed today had in exposing the girl, naming her, and things like that. But in the appeal case, don't you think that it's continuing to do this, and they're going to continue to do this more and vilify where we are and these accused further?
Yes, of course. When Sanjiram, for example, applied for bail, they went ballistic, saying life of this family will be endangered. Whereas the fact is that it's the Hindus who are actually endangered. The allegation is that Sanjiram uh, got this girl murdered because he wanted to drive out Muslims. The fact is, and I've produced ample evidence to show how Hindus have been on the defensive. These Islamists actually, the Bakarwals and Gujars, they actually graze on Hindu lands, and if Hindus try to protect their lands by fencing them, then they consider it an affront. They beat them up. They've even murdered Hindus simply because they protested against their lands being grazed by animals, their standing crops being destroyed. So Hindus are fleeing from various districts of Jammu province, but it's very typical, al taqiya technique, which is they will slaughter you and then claim victimhood for themselves. So that's
Last
what they've done
question.
here too.
Last question,
And
Madhuji.
you should actually see section 2 of my book, where I've reproduced that, not only their tweets and their Facebook posts, they speak volumes. That was the hardest part, to establish their complicity in
Mhm.
creating this echo chamber of false narrative.
Yeah, the last thing,
Gee.
the FIR that you published today, what we have shown to the viewers today, the lawyers of the victim, they have produced some different FIRs because they are saying the postmortem, even the PMR, the doctors who conducted PMR, and one of this thing it's saying that the girl was sexually assaulted and died of asphyxia, and which the FIR, as you said, doesn't show. How does the
No.
Supreme Court? How does the Supreme Court take this into consideration? I'm just amazed by
Nobody
that.
reads it. Nobody reads the case. I'm not sure many of the lawyers, when I talk to the lawyers who are representing these people, I'm not sure they have read the documents as closely as I've tried to do. If they had done it, and in courts, Swami, you know what kind of atmosphere prevails, especially when the judge has been instructed that he has to do a hit job. He didn't listen. And in fact, this Tejwinder Singh used to tell lawyers very arrogantly, "Why are you wasting your breath? It's going to be a waste of time. So just go easy, go easy." That's what he would tell them in court. They didn't read, and they didn't get the best of legal aid, for example. That I say for sure. Even today in High Court, when I try to speak to the lawyers who've charged 10 lakh, 15 lakhs from these very poor people who've had to sell their property, they don't even have case files in their hand. They don't know when the next date will be. When I call these lawyers and ask them, when is the next date? I want to be present. They don't even talk to me properly. I've never faced a situation where people will not answer my questions. I mean, even when I talk to the law minister in Delhi, it's not likely that he will refuse to talk to me. But such is the state of affairs. It actually brings the legal profession to great shame, because none of them And I mean, not one journalist who read the charge sheet, not one journalist who read the post-mortem report. I can't believe it, but it's spoon-fed journalism. BBC journalists doing the same, New York Times doing the same. I mean, every single newspaper and TV channel, but for some programs, the ZTV did, thanks to that CCTV footage of ATMs from which this Vishal Jangotra was withdrawing money. If ZTV had not played that footage, then this judge would not have accepted any other evidence. Because the entire case, Swami, and this is the most important thing, in criminal cases, crime has to be produced beyond reasonable doubt. Here, there are big holes in everything. The only basis for convicting or trying these people is the confession of that teenager, Shubham, who was first arrested. They tortured him. They tortured so many youngsters into giving false testimonies. 232 were arrested, and then 114 were dropped. How could there be so many hundreds of witnesses to murder that took place in the privacy of XYZ place? The whole narrative is so bizarre that you don't know whether to cry or laugh or to go hit your head against a wall. It's so bad. But such cases are becoming routine. And I mean, there's so many other cases. Colonel Purohit's case, Maya
Yes.
Kodnani's case, which also I've written about, 100% lies. But they got away with incarcerating her for so many years. So many years. Nobody helped her.
Total
She was
betrayal of
left to
Hindus,
fend for
Dr.
herself.
Swamy. Absolute betrayal of the
Yes.
Hindus in Jammu. And I mean, 370 has not brought any change. Absolutely no change in the status. They were treating it get worse. Now more Hindus are getting, or Hindutva and Hindus are getting military across the country, doctor. I mean, it is just, as Madhuji, thank you. This is heart rendering to see. I mean, I agree that the girl, there is a victim, but the way the injustice just being propped up on Hindus, it is just amazing at the end of the day. And what did Modi get out of this? Nothing, Dr. Swamy. At the end of the day, this is the Mufti government, and then what else? We are back to square one, and nothing. It's just
But
I'm
it's
just
not over.
boiling. Actually, it's not over yet. Okay, Arvindji, sorry, go ahead. You can conclude. We'll pass the part. We're 10 minutes over. Go ahead, Arvindji.
We'll give them a run for their money.
Okay.
Madam, just tell us who is the publisher of your book so our viewers will know.
It's been published by Garuda Prakashan. Nobody else would have published a book like this. But you can also order
Okay.
it through manushi.in on our website. We give a good discount. So I urge you all to read it. It is also for you, for young journalists, for lawyers, a training manual for how to blast fake narratives. I've done it repeatedly on many issues, but I think this is the most important and the most detailed training manual anybody could provide you. So I urge you all to, especially young lawyers, law students, and journalists, if you wish to understand how to go about blasting fake narratives, how to do your own investigations, not be spoon fed. We have too much spoon fed journalism. Then do read this book. The Girl from
And a lot of
Katwa, victim of Ghazwa Hind, sacrificial victim of
Ramesh,
Ghazwa Hind. That's what I've named
Ramesh,
it.
you can display
And
the
Swami,
title,
please
Ramesh.
join me.
Yeah, I told
Yeah.
you we're going to meet soon, and we'll be back on this program
Yes.
also with a totally different scenario from what has been painted so far in terms of depressing all of us. We are not going to let it go like this, and we have to create a faith that these things can be fought.
right, Dr. Swamy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Swami. I'm really
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Dr. Swamy.
grateful for that. Thank you.
Arvindji, you can conclude.
Thank you. Congratulations to you, Dr. Madhu Kishwar ji, for doing such kind of research in
Yeah.
a case which has been lingering on for years. and injustice has been done to the case victims, and the criminals have not been identified yet correctly. You have presented full document, minutest details possible to support your point, and you have exposed all the vested interests, and have also shown that crime is also a political issue for people. Crime, people are not interested in solving the criminal cases, but they are only interested in political taking political sides. And congratulations once again for even having exposed media which has been biased, and you also expose judiciary. I mean, your courageous step by writing this book should be congratulated, and book should also be publicized as much as possible. The judiciary is also under question, media is also under question, and of course, you have named a minister who is in PMO who has not been with the truth, and therefore this is very important. And I congratulate Dr. Swamy for initiating this issue and bringing Dr. Madhu Kishwar for this program, because this is one issue where people have been, but not clear about what is the mystery about this case, and you have exposed through your book. And I wish your book also is read by many more people, both in media and judiciary, so that they find the reason. I also congratulate you for having mentioned this issue about 6,000 children disappearing from Delhi every year. This is Child Rights Commission's report, but people are not interested. It is very surprising that government of the day is not sensitive enough to notice these kind of issues and ignoring these kind of issues for political reasons. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jagdish Shetty. Thanks, Ramesh Swamiji, for being hosting this program. Thanks also to the technical team led by Ashish Shetty, Gadgi Rakesh, Ishwar Iyer, Swaminathan, Tejas, Vishal Mehta, Najesh Nair. As Dr. Swamy has said, this is not end of the program of 90 minutes or so, but we will continue to take up this issue. And Dr. Swamy has shown personal interest in this issue, and he will take. And as you know, once Dr. Swamy takes a personal interest in any legal
Yes.
case, he takes it to the last point, and until the case is really solved. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. In fact, the kind of support people have shown today, the viewers have shown today in terms of the comments, that shows that how much interest people have in this issue. And naturally, the book will serve the purpose of dissemination of the truth of the correct information which people need. We'll be meeting next Sunday once again with a new issue, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, and perhaps with a new guest. Next issue is going to be our 200th issue.
Yes.
Arvindji,
And,
Arvindji, sorry to interrupt. Your video is off. I don't know why, but you can continue.
Next issue is going to be our 200th issue, and coincidentally, it falls on the emergency day, 25th June. So we will have an appropriate guest. Dr. Swamy will decide to invite somebody who is very, very important, and let us see. So viewers, we will be meeting you again on 25th of June in 200th issue. We, as Jagdish said, we started in 2020, and it is now almost 3 years, 2.5 years that we have completed 200th. Thank you very much for supporting us continuously. And in 140 countries, we are being watched. And this program, it would not be possible without the support of the viewers. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting next Sunday. Till then, Namaskar, Jai Hind.